Hello, this is Bill Steffen, meteorologist. Thanks so much for joining me today. We've retreated down into the man cave. It's kind of cold with that east wind coming in. The temperature out on the three-season porch was down to around 60, and with the cool weather pattern continuing here for several more days, I thought, well, I might as well make it a like man cave Monday. So we are down here in the basement at the Steffen house, and a lot to share with you. Take a look at this. We have confirmed an 11th tornado from the outbreak that occurred last Thursday evening here. That's a lot of tornadoes for Michigan in one system. These storms produced just EF0 and EF1 tornadoes. The latest EF0 was over in Zeeland Township into Jamestown Township. It was only 50 yards wide, so that's half as wide as the football field is long. Damaged some farm buildings, trees and wires were down, 3.5-mile path. The 10th one, I don't know if I've mentioned that one before, skimmed along the south edge of Gun Lake in Berry County. And all of these, by the way, were EF0 or EF1. There was an EF2 over in Wisconsin at Mayville. And all of these tornadoes in Michigan were pretty much south of the line from about Muskegon to Flint. So a very interesting day weather-wise. I think we're mostly done with tornadoes for this year, and I'll share more about that with you in another time. All right, let's go in and talk about severe weather today. Another huge severe weather day yesterday and another one coming up today. Look at that big orange outlook there. That's for parts of Mississippi, Alabama, much of Tennessee and southern Kentucky. Again, all parameters are certainly on the table here. Severe hail, severe strong winds, and also tornadoes. You can see that little wedge of green that comes up into lower Michigan in the southwest corner of the state. Can't rule out a rumble of thunder there as some milder air moves in, and at least aloft. And if you are south of a line from maybe South Haven or Holland to around Ann Arbor or so, it's not impossible there could be a rumble of thunder, but no severe weather expected here. It'll be the systems really will be concentrating their efforts down in the southern United States here. And we'll go one more day here and show you the threat here for Wednesday. You can see we've got no yellow, no orange. We just have the dark green, and that's only a level 1 marginal outlook. Starts in North Florida and goes up toward West Virginia. But I think as we get past today, actually Tuesday, we're going to be seeing the severe weather season kind of wind down a little bit here and some much calmer weather in store for much of the United States. I think right now we're in second place in the last 20 years in terms of the number of tornadoes through May the 20th. So we're due for some calmer weather around here. A look at some of the power outages here. Now, this goes all the way back to 9:45 Monday, but still, that's 4 days after the storms went through. We still had 5,219 customers without power in Michigan and 5,058 Consumers Energy customers, and they're concentrated in an area from Benton Harbor to just shy of Lansing, especially around Bellevue, Olivet, that area north of Battle Creek. It's taken 4 days to get, or more than 4 days now, to get the power back on. But I think everybody pretty much gets back here this Tuesday as the power crews can concentrate on a dwindling number of outages, and they can put their efforts into here. But it's been quite a year for power outages here in West Michigan, not only the severe weather, but also the ice storm that occurred in northeast lower Michigan. All right, let's take time out and thank our sponsors. Pay attention to this.
And you've got a lot going on. It's graduation season. There's a lot of special holidays and events. So what you don't want to be doing is cleaning, and Complete Care Concierge LLC's got you covered. Maybe you need to spruce up for that open house. Mother's Day just happened. Father's Day is coming up. Whatever you've got going on, they can do one-time cleans. They can do repeated cleans. They clean homes, apartments, condominiums, rentals. They can clean your office or your business. They can even clean on the weekends, whatever you need. They service all of West Michigan, 616-264-1397, 616-264-1397. And here's a word from our other sponsor.
When your home needs help, you might not know where to start. Why not ask Ace? We're always here to help with Ace Handyman Services. Our talented craftsmen handle everything from drywall and carpentry to doors and kitchens. We're the neighbors you trust to get the job done right. Let's get started. Book your handyman appointment today. Ace Handyman Services, bringing helpful to your home.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
Well, we had an east wind here on Monday, and when we have an east wind, that means it's just as warm at the lake shore as it is in inland areas. They're pretty close. And that's what it was. 3 o'clock temperatures with a little bit of sunshine. It was a little warmer off to the south of Grand Rapids. 63 the high temperature in Kalamazoo, and 61 the high temperature in South Haven at the lighthouse. So the air probably cooled off a degree or two coming down the channel before it got to the lighthouse there at South Haven. So those are pretty identical. And then take a look at this. Grand Rapids was in the clouds all day, pretty much 56 degrees. Did make 58 at the Muskegon Pier. There was a tad more sunshine there. And look up in the UP, the high temperature, not the low temperature, the high temperature at Marquette Monday was 41. The good news is they beat yesterday. Yesterday's high temperature was 37, and it was snowing there. They actually had measurable snow in Marquette on the 18th and 19th. So that's pretty amazing. And I should also pass along that the average high temperature for Grand Rapids for today is 71. So our 56 was a full 15 degrees cooler than average here in the Grand Rapids area. All right, let's take a look at some rain shower activity here expected here for this afternoon and tonight. It will be breezy this Tuesday. A cool weather pattern is expected right on through Friday. And it will be a little bit warmer for the weekend. We may not quite get up to average, which will be 72 by the time we hit the weekend. But all in all, it will feel better because we'll get some sunshine and the winds won't be quite as strong. By the way, the breeze today will be out of the east at 15 to 25 miles an hour with it raining. And temperatures while it's raining will probably only be in the low 50s. So it's not going to be a pleasant afternoon. It's going to wipe out some golf leagues and softball leagues. Okay, on to the lakeshore weather for today. And the clouds, the rain, the breeze should hold. Temperatures here at mid-afternoon should be in the mid-50s. We got a nice little sailboat there taking advantage of the breeze out by the channel there. I believe that was at Muskegon. Okay, let's take a look at our forecast for rain here for the next 3 days. And boy, what a huge area that's going to see an inch to an inch and a half of rain. Not quite so much here in lower Michigan, but you can see from eastern North Dakota down into, and by the way, parts of North Dakota have had 5 inches of rain. That's pretty unusual for a place that's an awful long way from an ocean to get that much rain. You can see the rain extending down toward northeast Texas, across the Ohio River Valley, where there's some flooding going on, and over toward Pennsylvania, where they've had numerous heavy thunderstorms here this spring. Closer to Michigan, here's the way the pattern looks. Right in the Michigan area, we'll be seeing anywhere from around 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch of rain. And as you can see, the rain will be a little harder, or a little bit more rain southwest of Grand Rapids than there will be to the northeast. I would suspect 1/10 of an inch of rain up toward Alpena, the Mac Bridge. Heavier rains will be occurring across the lake toward Chicago and Milwaukee. And it's still snowing out west, but I'm not showing you that graphic. We'll move on here and talk about today's weather. High temperature just 56 for Grand Rapids. The rain will move from southwest to northeast across the area, spread across the area during the midday. Early morning, low 40s here. And there's that pretty stiff wind. I think the humidity drops to about 60%, and then it starts raining, and then it goes back up to around 80% here. So it will be damper when the rain is coming down. Taking a look at specific high temperatures for the area, 59 for the Greenville area there. Take a little bit longer for the rain to reach the areas north of Grand Rapids. South Haven and Benton Harbor there at 56. Across the lake, 50, the high at Milwaukee with that stiff east wind. Not going to be a nice day there. And then we move on and talk about our high temperatures here for Wednesday. I think not impossible somebody could make 60 in Grand Rapids with a smidgen of sunshine. But again, temperatures should be a good 10 degrees cooler than average for this time of year. 5-day forecast looks like this. Readings will be, look at the rain here. By the way, the steadiest rain will be Tuesday afternoon through Wednesday morning. Tuesday night it should be raining for most of the night. And you see those temperatures there only in the 50s. Rain Thursday and Friday should be scattered lighter showers, so not an all-day rain. And Saturday, I can't totally rule out a shower, but I kept the raindrops out. I think it will be a better day with temperatures back up into the mid-60s. Sunday looks like a good day, too, with sunshine and temperatures probably in the upper 60s. Long-range outlook keeps us cool. That blob of blue continues to sit over the Ohio Valley, where there's a lot of rain and clouds, and of course a little of that spreads up here into Michigan, but there is warmer air off to our west, and I think as we head into the Memorial Day holiday weekend, the weather will be a little bit warmer. By the time we hit the end of May, around the 30th and 31st, I expect temperatures here to be in the mid to upper 70s during the afternoon for a couple of days. So there is some milder weather ahead. It's just not coming anytime soon. Michelle, send me one of your umbrellas. We're going to need it around here the next couple of days. Pretty amazing.
And we've definitely needed those umbrellas here in Alabama too, for sure. Okay, so here is a question from a viewer. Tornadoes in Ionia County, Colony Road area, straight line winds or tornadoes. There was a roof off of a barn.
Okay, I would suspect that would be close enough that it would be one of the tornadoes that occurred, one of the 11 tornadoes. I would have to check out where on Colony Road that would be and look at the write-ups from the National Weather Service and the radar images, but I would suspect that was probably a tornado, especially with the lift that would take a roof off a barn like that. We had generally 60 to 80 mile an hour wind gusts over a wider area from Benton Harbor to around the Lansing area, but back toward Ionia County, I would suspect that the odds favor that being a tornado. Ask me about that tomorrow. I'll see if I can do some research on that and see what I can come up with. But that may very well be one of our 11 tornadoes.
And there was a lot that went on in this day in history. The Council of Nicaea began, which gave us the Nicene Creed. And in 1883, Krakatoa begins to erupt. Bill, do you know the country?
That was Indonesia, I believe.
Very good.
Yes, and 1883, that explosion was so loud, I think it was heard 1,000 miles away.
Wow.
And it was enough to affect the weather. There have been several volcanoes that have pumped so much dirt up into the upper atmosphere that has dimmed the sunshine and actually turned the earth a bit cooler. The last example of that was Mount Pinatubo in 1991 in the Philippines. And we estimate that the summer that year was probably about half a degree cooler than it would have been had it not been for the volcano pumping dust up into the air.
And on this day in 1927, Charles Lindbergh took the first nonstop solo transatlantic flight, New York to Paris. His plane was called the Spirit of St. Louis, and it was 3,600 miles and took 33 hours and 30 minutes.
Isn't that amazing? 33 hours. How fast do you get across in the plane now, across the ocean?
Charles Lindbergh, Spirit of St. Louis, flew a maximum speed of 133 miles per hour with a cruising speed of up to 110 miles an hour. By comparison, how fast does an Airbus typically cruise on a transatlantic flight today?
Wow, you asked my question for me. Let's see. I would suspect that you can get across the ocean in probably 4 hours on an Airbus. Does that sound about right?
Do you know what the approximate cruising speed would be?
Ooh, see, we're below the
That's
speed.
a little bit light for a timeline. A flight from JFK to London, I would say, is about 6 hours, but I'd have to go back.
That's 6 hours. Okay, yeah, that's about right. I would say you're in the 500s, maybe 550.
Very good. 500 to 600 miles per hour.
Yeah. Wow! Ding,
and
ding,
the fastest
ding, ding.
airliner to complete it was in just under 3 hours, which was a Concorde flying from JFK to London in 1996.
And what's the big problem with flying over 720 miles an hour?
You break the sound barrier?
That's right. You break the sound barrier and probably put up a big boom and a pressure kind of a tsunami that comes on in and breaks windows. That's why they couldn't run the Concorde over land. The Concorde would take off and it would fly below the speed of sound. And then when it got over the ocean where there are no buildings or anything, it could go faster than the speed of sound. And then it would have to slow down again as it approached Europe. So
I
interesting.
wonder if that would be a commercially viable product today, because they say that the Concorde didn't fail because of the crash that happened. They said that it didn't sell as an elite product for where the price point was. But then you think about how tablets, the tablets that we all have now didn't catch on at first either. I
Right.
wonder if it'd be worth trying again at some point.
Right. Yeah, maybe that could be, but they're very, very expensive. By the way, the cabin on the Concorde shrinks by about 6 inches when it's flying at Mach 2 or Mach 1.5 or whatever it is. And that had to be designed into the plane. So the cabin is actually on kind of rollers of some kind, so that with the speed of the Concorde going into the air like that, it would shrink the plane by about 6 inches. Isn't that weird?
This reminds me of the flight that we took back from London, and we flew over Greenland.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I spent that time standing there at the window looking over Greenland.
I was so geeked. I'm the only one on the plane that is so geeked because I'm flying over Greenland. And I never in my life thought I would ever fly over Greenland, but it looked like it was the middle of winter. All the lakes we saw were frozen over. The entire land area there was snow covered and ice covered. The water was not ice. The water was not frozen over. But yeah, pretty interesting. And I kept thinking, there's so few people on that island. It's a lot of room to spread out there. But of course, it's very high. The coldest temperatures in North America. Is it North America? Oh, I'd assume it's North America. Or is it part of Europe? What continent is Greenland with? I don't know.
That's a good question. We'll have to make it a trivia question.
Another question we'll have to think about. Oh, interesting. But anyhow, it is a huge island, and the amount of fresh water that's in the fresh water that's in the ice that's on Greenland and everything. It's pretty amazing.
According to the internets, it's North America.
North America. Okay.
Okay, other stuff. This is from Alex. 5 years after Lindbergh's transatlantic flight, Amelia Earhart takes off from Newfoundland for her first nonstop solo female piloted transatlantic flight. So there's your time frame there. And in 2013, an EF5 tornado in Oklahoma with a track of 13.85 miles with 24 fatalities and $2 billion in damage. Yes,
and you know what? I drove down to Oklahoma. In fact, it was actually on the trip that we went down to see. Did we see? No. It was 2000. No, there were two EF. I've got that wrong. There were two F5 EF5 tornadoes that went through Moore, Oklahoma. This was the second Moore, Oklahoma tornado, as you have listed there.
So there was more.
First one was May 3rd, 1999. And while you were in college, I drove to Moore, Oklahoma on the way down to see you, or was it the way coming back? I don't know.
I was not in college in 1999. I was class of 2000.
No, it was at some point after 1999.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I didn't go down there to see the tornado. No, this was years after. What years were you down there?
You're talking about law school, 2004 to 2007.
Okay, so it's probably 2004, 2005. And we stopped at the fire station in Moore, Oklahoma, and I asked them how they worked the aftermath of that tornado. How did you deal with that? And he said, first of all, you have to use GPS because there's no landmarks. Everything has been, if it's EF5, everything is gone. There are no street signs. There are no buildings. You have no idea where you are. And it's worthless to try and drive anywhere because it's just going to blow your tires. You're going to run over nails and glass and everything else like that. So he said the first thing we did is try and divide up parcels of land to look for survivors. People comes first. Then you have to deal with shutting off gas and water mains and stuff like that. One of the things he said was really beneficial is they had a fire call to the east side of Moore, and they dispatched, I think, all but one of their vehicles for a house fire or a kitchen fire of some kind. So when the tornado came through, it destroyed the fire station, but they still had, 5, 6 of their vehicles, and only one was destroyed in the tornado. So a good side to that. But yeah, an amazing tornado. The second Moore, Oklahoma tornado, I believe there were several fatalities to storm chasers. And that's something we worry about. Every dark cloud now, there's a zillion people following it, trying to get their minute of fame with getting their video on the Weather Channel or something like that. And go to the basement. There's too many people following storms now.
Okay, except that I remember the day raid show that I missed. I've heard from my sisters that you parked in the apple orchard and told them to get down while you were watching. So
that was the raid show of 1991. No,
Yeah.
I wanted to see if I needed to point the car in a different direction. I wanted to point into the wind.
And then there was the time that you and I were at Blue Lake when the storm came up, and you drove at 55 miles the whole way home so that you could stay in the storm the entire time.
I didn't drive faster than that. In fact, I wasn't driving 55. I was driving more like 40.
I'm just saying you ended up in some storms yourself.
And and that storm was moving exactly as fast as I was. And the big thing about that storm was the incredible amount of cloud to ground lightning. The storms that came through Thursday night, at least where I was on the northwest side of Grand Rapids, did not have a lot of cloud to ground lightning. There was some, but most of the lightning was in cloud or cloud to cloud.
And every time there was a new flash of lightning, you yelled, hoo-hoo! And I was terrified.
I was geeked.
But why couldn't we just stay at the Bob Evans in Muskegon until this is over?
Well, had I known it was going to be that bad, and I would have stayed there. I mean, I like Bob Evans. We had Bob Evans for dinner tonight. We had one of their macaroni and cheese dinners, your mother and I. So, yeah, that interesting.
Okay, so birthdays, May 20. William Thornton, the architect of the U.S. Capitol building, James Stewart, and Cher.
Wow. James Stewart goes all the way back to 1908.
Older than Grandma.
He had a wonderful life. What would that make? That would make Cher 79, maybe. Isn't she still touring? I don't know. Yeah, I've got you, babe. Right.
Okay, tomorrow at the Meyer Gardens, May 20, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., there is a senior expo. Get your health screenings, food and refreshments, gift cards and other prizes, resources like Medicaid and other insurance solutions, senior travel opportunities, legal assistance. Woo-woo. Everybody have fun.
Wow. That's pretty cool. That's something they ought to mention on the news. Just passing fancy and say, here's something you might be interested in.
It actually sounds fun. A way to find those resources that are there and maybe make some friends. And that's one of our many, many stock photos from the Meyer Gardens.
Senior travel, yes. Holiday vacations, Canadian trip. Living solutions.
Assisted living and that kind of thing.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, if you want to stay alive, drink this. I'm just kidding.
Mom's mom, my grandma Yankee, lived at Beacon Hill, and that place was a grandchild magnet.
Mm-hmm.
They had simulated golf. They had pool. They had a pool. It was a good time.
Yeah, some of those senior living places are pretty amazing, and there are every different. Look at the villages down in Florida. It's like a whole county, or more than a county. Interesting.
May 20 is World Metrology Day. It is not Meteorology Day. It is Metrology Day. It is the day that the Treaty of the Meter was signed, which created the International Bureau of Weights and Measures, which standardizes measurements in science and trade. And the U.S. is a member, and we were an original signatory as well. So happy World Metrology Day, everyone. We all benefit from uniformity in measurement.
Well, there's not quite uniformity. I mean, we have kilometers and centimeters just about everywhere except in the United States.
Well, yes, but we're doing better than we might be doing without World Metrology Day.
Right. Well, I don't know. I grew up with Fahrenheit, and it's kind of interesting. I remember when I first went to Canada for my first weather conference. I believe it was 1976, and Canada had just switched to the metric system. And I remember going down the street and asking people what they thought the temperature was, and every single one of them answered in Fahrenheit instead of centigrade or Celsius. Interesting.
May 20, 1942, the Glenn Miller Orchestra recorded this song. The song was featured in the musical movie Orchestra Wives. The title is I've Got a Gal in This West Michigan Town.
Kalamazoo, and I believe Lawrence Welk did that on PBS a few weeks back.
Mhm.
We catch that show once in a great while. Yes, I got a gal in Kalamazoo. Yep,
It's one of the most well-known songs about a Michigan city.
yep, yep.
Except I think there's one about Saginaw.
There's a country song about Saginaw.
Yeah, something about a girl in Saginaw, Michigan.
Girl in Saginaw, Michigan.
Yeah, that one.
Something about sending his father-in-law up to Alaska to look for gold.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Okay, according to Google Maps, when I ran it, how long does it take to drive from Kalamazoo to Battle Creek if you take the most direct route on I-94?
How long does it take to drive?
You can answer in whatever unit of measurement you like.
Cubits, maybe? Maybe not. Okay, let's try 17 minutes. How's that?
30 minutes.
30 minutes. Takes 30 minutes to go from Kalamazoo to
It's
Battle Creek.
which I ran it probably when there was during some traffic. It might give you a different answer at 3 in the morning.
Okay, well, that sounds better. 17 sounds a little shy.
Okay, according to Google Maps, what is the distance to drive? Hint, ask someone who has run a marathon.
Ooh, 26 miles?
26.2 exactly.
Ooh,
Is
wow.
what it gave me for the driving miles from Kalamazoo to Battle Creek.
Okay, that sounds good. I have driven from Kalamazoo to Battle Creek many times, usually as part of a longer trip. We used to go down there for the holiday parade in Kalamazoo and the holiday parade in Battle Creek.
I interviewed for a job once in Battle Creek.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was not qualified. I made it to final interviews, and I don't know why. But
Oh, okay.
thank you to them for considering me. It's a lovely town.
Yeah, it really is.
Okay, May 20 at the South Haven Scott Club, Dark Corners of Michigan History, photo exploration of Michigan prisons and jails. And the presentation promises to visit some of Michigan's creepiest locations, including the old Detroit House of Corrections, Jackson State Penitentiary, and county jails. And it is presented by true crime author Tobin T. Book. See scottclub.org for more info.
Well, that sounds interesting. Would you be interested in something like that?
Yeah.
You know, it's not quite the same as a medieval dungeon, but interesting.
Going on Tuesday in South Haven.
Oh, interesting.
And on May 20, 1919, World War I soldiers arrived home and had a parade in the streets of Grand Rapids. Over 135,000 Michigan men served in World War I, resulting in an estimated 5,000 fatalities. And Michigan also made significant industrial contributions to the war.
And Mom's grandfather was in World War I. And actually got hit with some mustard gas, which they used back then.
So how does that compare to World War II? So we had 135,000 Michigan men serving in World War I. So how many served in World War II? Hint, it's a larger number.
Okay, how many men from Michigan served in World War II? Let's do 240,000.
Even more, 613,000. I know.
That's huge. But, when I think about it, pretty much everybody who could went. My father enlisted, his brother enlisted. James Stewart, we just mentioned, was a fighter pilot in World War II.
Over 10,000 fatalities from Michigan alone.
Yeah, isn't that sad? Yeah.
Speaking of, this is one of my buddies. I used to play the piano at a senior home in Holland, and this is Jim Oakes. He was a World War II veteran and photographer, and he was one of my friends there.
Okay, well, salute to Jim.
And he passed in, I think, 2015, and he had wonderful stories, and tragically, his fiance left him when he was in the war, and he came back, and she was with someone else, and he never got over it.
Oh.
Yeah. It
Very
still upset
sad.
him to talk about, even when he was 90 years old. But we thank him and all veterans for their service.
For sure. Yeah, my dad was in, and here's Bill getting ready to go off to war. And
There's something completely different. I came across this while I was looking for the Meyer Garden stock photos. And anyways, 2 West Michigan legends.
I have a Yeah, there was the penny pony at Myers, and you
Mhm.
girls were all on the penny pony. I don't know if you remember that, but we used to do that.
Oh, I remember
And
it.
they had the purple cow where you could get an ice cream cone. And I got from Fred Meyer a certificate for an ice cream cone from Myers. And I've never cashed in because I thought the autograph from Fred Myers is probably more valuable than an ice cream cone would be, that was going to be gone in 10 minutes. So
What
I
are they
still
going
have
to do with
it.
Sandy now that they're not making the penny? Has anyone asked?
Ooh, that's true. Yeah. We'll have to upgrade it to a nickel, or else, put some pennies there in the jar. Of course, somebody would probably steal them if they did something like that.
They made tokens too that they would hand
Yeah.
out during Kids Week. They would hand out tokens for one free ride.
Like the tokens from Chuck E. Cheese.
So if I was really well behaved for a week, then I would go with Dad to do the 11 o'clock show, and I would
Mhm.
sit on the couch at ZZM right outside the studio, and then I would watch cartoons until 1 in the morning when he was done with work, and then we would go to Meyer. And I would have the horse all to myself, and he would let me ride it 2 or 3 times, and it was great fun. And in retrospect, I don't know what they were doing taking an 8, 9 year old to Meyer at 2 in the morning, but that's what we did. And yes, I have wonderful memories of riding Sandy at 2 in the morning when I was
Yeah.
8 years old.
Yeah, wasn't that fun? And you got to know some of the baggers there. By the way, do you remember rifling? Or I don't know if it was you or if it was somebody else. If it was Julia Marie, rifling through the couch looking for change, looking for spare change that fell out of pockets into the couch.
Oh, at ZZM, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, more often than not, you'd find something.
I'm pretty sure there was one engineer that was like putting dimes there for me to find.
That could be. Wow,
Hmm.
yeah. Dimes, pennies, nickels, quarters.
But it was
Yeah.
fun, and all your coworkers would come by and talk to me and ask me about school and stuff.
Mm-hmm. And you made a
Yeah.
map that I used on the air at when you were 8 years old.
Hmm.
You took the electric pen and you punched out the inside of the oblong, whatever that I was drawing there, and
Yes, you
that was
told me
pretty tough.
exactly what to do,
Mhm.
and I did it.
I see a smile.
Yeah, this is from Ian Kennedy in Montague, Michigan. Go Wildcats.
Yes, indeed. And that is interesting. That is part of a halo.
Hmm.
And the halo occurs at about 22 or 22 and a half degrees to the side or around the sun. And it's caused by the sun refracting or bending through some cirrus clouds. And that is what you're looking at right there is a pretty solid layer of cirrostratus clouds. If they're just wispy little tails, then they're cirrus clouds. And if it covers the entire sky, you get a nice circular arc like that. And it's really a very nice halo. And
And what a beautiful picture in nature in the little creek. I wonder what creek that is.
yeah, and to get that halo, the halos usually occur up where the cirrus clouds are, about 5-6 miles up above the ground level, and the ice crystals in the cirrus clouds, cold up there. It's ice crystals. The ice crystals have to be the right shape, and they have to be the right position in order to get a halo like that. Sometimes you can have the sun shining through cirrus clouds and not get a halo or anything at all. Sometimes you get a little spot that is multicolored off to the left or right of the sun. That's called a parhelia. So pretty interesting. But thank you, Ian, for sending that along. That was great.
And John Scully sent me a montage of some of the photos that he's had framed and
Wow.
wrapped, and I thought it was a lovely work of art in and of itself.
Yeah, how pretty is that? Neat.
Yeah, I asked
And
him if he has
all
a store,
different
and he
seasons.
said no.
Wow.
But I think he should have a store.
We're grateful that he allows us to use his pictures on the air. He's close to Muskegon, goes down to Grand Haven sometimes, but gets some nice pictures there at the Lakeshore for us to use.
Yeah, I just thought they were beautiful, all done up like that.
So thank you, John.
And our photo from John Doherty, not recent.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you can see the light down close to the horizon there. The sun probably working its way towards sunset, and a good amount of cloud cover overhead. That looks like a summer picture with the leaves on the trees and everything else like that. Very pretty. Well, we have reached the end of our journey here for today, the 20th, our video for the 20th. Thanks so much for sticking with us until the end, and have yourself a wonderful day today.